Good morning and welcome to Roland Academy webinar series. So today's webinar is how to achieve accurate and predictable color. We are co-hosting this webinar with GMG Color. So I will be introducing two individuals that have joined us for today's webinar. We have Kevin Rowe, who is a Technical Solutions Manager of GMG Americas. And with him, we also have Birgit Plaut. She is the Manager of Technical Services of GMG Americas. My name is Julie Gadaris. I am the Product Manager of E-commerce Supplies and Accessories here at Roland. And so today's webinar is really to make sure that as Roland owners or people that are interested in purchasing a Roland really know what resources are out there for color management. And so as your business continues to grow, or if you have color critical customers, you want to be able to service those customers well. So I'm going to now turn it over to Kevin, and Kevin is going to start off the presentation.
Thank you very much, Julie. Appreciate it, and thank you everybody for taking the time today. We'll hopefully make this as informative as possible. Back to the reason why everybody's here is accurate and predictable color, and we kind of want to talk about why. Why do I need accurate and predictable color? I mean, maybe it's pretty obvious to most, but first and foremost, we need to maintain our existing customers, the customers that we have today. We want to keep them as long as possible. We want to also, of course, attract new ones. If we have a high quality output, we're going to be able to attract the higher end customers that actually pay a little bit more money. And of course, increased efficiency. So if I'm not questioning what kind of color is going to be coming out of my system, if I'm not worried about throwing things in the bucket, then we can be more efficient in our production. From there, actually, I think Birgit just sent out a quick poll. Hopefully you guys all see that. And we just were curious if how many of you out there have thrown away a print, basically because the color was not correct. Have you ever started to fill up that waste bucket at the end of the printer because you just can't get that customer's color right? So I'll give you guys a few seconds to go through the poll. And we'll jump to the next slide, and we'll get back to that answer in a moment. So what do we need for accurate and predictable color? What does your company need? I'm sure there's a lot of companies out there today that are mixing technologies, flexo, gravure, offset, along with digital. The ultimate goal is a common appearance across all of these devices. I have one campaign that I'm stretching across multiple technologies. We want a common appearance across printing devices, the technologies, whether it's UV, solvent, conventional, as well as different substrates. We want to sync all these devices to give us a common appearance, as common as possible. Now, of course, if you're printing on newspaper and you're printing on a high-quality gloss substrate, you're not going to get exact, but we can absolutely achieve a common appearance with correct strategies. Back to the poll. Biggie, can you share that? Or
we have 99% of yes.
Excellent. So 99%, of course, we're throwing away with materials and wasting time because the color was not accurate. So looks like we all have some room for improvement there. So for accurate and predictable color, we need to be repeatable. If I can't repeat the same color today, tomorrow, next week, it's no good to me. I need to be able to reprint a job. I need to be able to hit that customer's color every time. And it needs to be predictable as well. If I'm printing on a flexo offset gravure device, I need to be able to create a proof of that. Maybe I need a quick print before I print it out on the Roland. I'd like it to be predictable to know what I'm going to get so that my devices are synced. If my devices are synced together, then I can predict what my output will be on virtually any device. Special colors, a huge concern, not to be left not talked about. Special colors, customers' brand colors, they have to be accurate, repeatable, and predictable as well. We'll go into special colors in more detail in a little bit. And probably one of the most important things is it needs to be easy. If it's difficult to get repeatable color, if it's not easy to make it predictable, it's not going to happen. Your operators are not going to do calibration. They're not going to make a profile. They're going to go back to their old ways and just start throwing stuff away in the trash. So it's got to be easy. The whole thing needs to be easy for it to happen correctly. So let's talk about each of these points, starting with repeatability. And the solution to repeatability is not linearization. Linearization is not enough. Linearization is just giving you a full tonal range from 0 to 100, making sure you have a good gradation. It's not really calibration. It's only the single channels. You're only doing somewhat of a calibration for cyan by itself, magenta by itself, yellow by itself, black by itself. It's not accounting for all the overprint colors. So linearization is not enough. Calibration is one key component in order to be repeatable. Calibration of single channel and overprint colors needs to be done and verified. So what I mean by that is, I've seen some solutions out there that will have you print a chart, maybe measure it in with an I1, and then give you a green light that says, okay, the software's been updated and it's calibrated. But how do you know for sure that it's been calibrated? How do you know that the change the software made to the calibration is correct? You need to be able to verify that calibration has been done completely. That's the only real way to make sure you're repeatable. So do you perform calibrations regularly, not just linearization? So we've got a pretty high starting out. So let's see. So the result. I'm happy to see that almost a third of the attendees are performing calibrations regularly. That's a huge step. It's just a matter of, are they verified is a big question. 25% not knowing what calibration is. Well, hopefully after this webinar, you'll understand a little bit more about calibration. Basically, the big thing is we need to calibrate reds, greens, blues, browns. We need to make sure that those colors maintain consistency in addition to just cyan by itself, magenta by itself, yellow and black by itself. So we need to adjust our machine to make sure that it's the color, red, green, blue, browns, greens, they're in calibration as well as single colors.
Kevin, we have an interesting question here from the audience, where actually the question for what a linearization actually is, and if a cleaning cycle is enough to do a linearization, which it actually is not. So a linearization is basically a match of the colors how they're supposed to be. This means you have to use a measurement device, if possible a spectrophotometer, and verify that your colors are matching the 100% where it's supposed to be in the hue and saturation, as well as the steps in between are linear. I hope this answers the question.
Once we have calibration completed successfully and verified, now is the time to build our profiles on top of that, because I need to make my machine repeatable before I can start profiling. So I get that machine in a consistent state where I know I can put that machine back in next week, next month, next year. And then after I've created my calibration or I've calibrated my printer, now I can build my profiles on top of the calibration. So a little bit more about profiling, and profiling is kind of basically, it's of course done after the calibration, but it's how we can be predictable. My calibration is not really a good color space. I'm not going to achieve any pleasing color with my calibration typically. What I need to do is choose or create a profile in order to get pleasing color and predictable color. And big question is, what is going to be my target color space? Is it going to be Grackle? Is it going to be Adobe RGB? Do I need to match my flexo press, my offset, my gravure? As a matter of fact, GMG has a complete new concept, which we'll be talking about a lot in the New York event, called Color Master. And we have the Color Master color space, which is actually a color space that's a little bit larger than all of the print technologies out there, gravure, offset, flexo. That is actually what IKEA uses as their common appearance color space. In your shop, maybe it's to match the flexo press. Maybe it's to match the offset press. Maybe you just need the most pleasing color you can possibly get. In that case, you want the most saturation. You've got an RGB image. You use Adobe RGB image. Probably, I would say 75 to 85% of the customers that we implement a complete color management strategy in the U.S. go with Grackle. In Europe, it's ISO-coded. Grackle becomes most customers' CMYK common appearance color space. But that's something you need to decide. And in order to achieve a common appearance, and a lot of people don't believe it's possible, but different devices and substrates actually can have a common appearance as long as you're using the correct profile calculation algorithms. It's quite a bit of a mouthful, but with the right software and the right profiling, if you're just picking an out-of-the-box profile from somebody's website and using a perceptual rendering intent or some of the out-of-the-box rendering intents, that's good. That's if you have a good understanding of that. But if we're looking for common appearance, we need a more sophisticated gamut mapping strategy, because I'm going to be printing on, again, something like a newspaper stock and something on a coated sheet, and I need some sophisticated tools to map my common target gamut space to each of those different print technologies and substrates and so forth. So special colors, we'll get back to calibration, but special colors, whatever you call them, maybe you call them corporate colors, brand colors, custom colors, of course spot colors too count as special colors. They need to be accurate, predictable, repeatable. I mean, they need to be more accurate, more predictable, repeatable than CMYK typically. HP Blue, your customer is Coca-Cola. The list goes on and on. That's the most important colors you could imagine. My feeling, and I think most of GMG's feeling, is that special colors must use the entire available gamut of the device. Again, let's go back to that newspaper and number one sheet example. If I dumbed down, if I made my common appearance, my master color space, the newspaper print, and compressed all of my spot colors into that newspaper color space, that would not make a happy customer. Customers typically understand that when I'm printing on a digital device, there are limitations to how close I can get to that spot color on that media with that technology. So what we typically recommend is to make sure that you're using the entire available gamut of the device, because I don't want to convert my spot colors to process before I print the job. I'm going to lose gamut. That Coca-Cola red is going to have to come inside the gamut, even though your device could make a better match. So you want to make sure that your spot colors that come through, you're not converting them in process ahead of time, and they are using the entire available gamut of the device. I think now is a good time for it. We have another poll question. So how confident would you say you are that when your customer's special color, your spot colors, your brand colors are reproduced to the best of the Roland's ability? Roland has a fairly decent gamut, pretty wide gamut, and the question kind of basically means, when you're printing a job, are you crossing your fingers, or are you just sipping a cup of coffee, not worrying about it? So that's pretty good. We have about 70% responding, and we have 52%, say 50-50, 37 not confident. So I'd say, you know, around 80–90% of the attendees or of our customers out here see that there's some room for improvement. You know, if I want to keep those customers happy, I need to make sure that, you know, not just on the Roland, but on my other device as well, that I am giving them the best possible match to that spot color as possible.
I think that's also a great chance to talk really quick about G7, because that was one of the questions also here from the audience. The G7 calibration basically works fairly well to keep the gray axis very stable, but as soon as it comes to high saturated special colors, you are basically very much depending on where the colors of your ink, the colors of your printer actually fall, and therefore it's often not enough to perform the G7 calibration. So you actually should have a full, basically 3- or 4-dimensional calibration with all overprints as well, also in the highly saturated colors.
Yeah, if I worded it a little differently, basically G7 is a calibration method that's calibrating the gray. It's similar to linearization. Linearization is looking at cyan, magenta, yellow, black individually. G7 doesn't even look at that. It actually looks at the gray axis by itself, and then your red, green, blue just falls as it may. So if you're doing G7 calibration, that's better than most. You know, I think you know, you absolutely, to be as accurate as you can be, you not only want to look at just the grays, but obviously the red, green, blue, and make sure that those stay consistent, not just that your grays are consistent. And of course, the special colors, you want to check to see that they are going through the calibration, because if they don't go through the calibration, they're not going to be consistent. And you know, when you reprint that job next week, and you know, if it doesn't go through the calibration, temperature, humidity changes, new ink cartridge, slightly different yellow channel, whatever the case is, if that spot color is not going through the calibration, then it's not going to match what happened last week. Again, this all needs to be easy. Basically, the whole process needs to be easy. Calibration, profiling, spot color handling, including white, metallic, and gloss. And to put it all together, the workflow needs to be able to be easy as well. So not just the color management, but the workflow to get to these devices, such as the VS series or the LEC series. Taking a look more in depth at GMG, we will take a quick look through the calibration process. So this refers back to the question earlier. We'll also take a quick look at our profiling and gamut mapping, how that works a little bit. And then we'll give a quick demo on how we handle a typical job within GMG. And this job requires some layered printing, auto white generation. It's got some metallic spot colors spec'd out, as well as some standard spot colors, including a customer's spot color. From a calibration standpoint, this basically represents how we calibrate. So again, linearization separate, that's good. We still need to make sure those inks are cut back properly so that we're not getting oversaturation. But after the linearization, we perform calibration. And the calibration goes through a process. And at least with the GMG, we make it as easy as possible. Basically, you right-click on the printer, say calibrate, and then a calibration chart is automatically printed. Then after the chart is printed, you use a measurement device. As Biggie referred to earlier, the spectrophotometer. You know, typical spectrophotometers you might use is an I1IO, maybe an ISIS. maybe even a Barbieri for somebody doing really large format stuff. But you know, so you're going to measure that calibration chart, and then after we measure the calibration chart, you can see the first cycle we did, we got a red light. That means that the calibration was no good. Our delta E for the color is above our tolerance. The maximum color is okay, and then we have delta L for black average and black max that we check also. So it basically failed the first time. So what the operator did is he hit the next button, and then it updated the calibration, printed a new chart, and then the operator measured the chart. And after the second cycle, he got a really nice number, 0.47 delta E, which is a great calibration. Even the max came down to less than 2, and our blacks came in line really nicely. So again, it goes on this concept of ease of use, and basically if you can put this into standard production, you know, depending upon your needs, it may be once a week that you calibrate, it might be once a month. But if it's as easy as, you know, right-clicking, saying calibrate, and hitting the next button, then it's got a better chance of getting done. Piggy, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay. So calibration. Oh, what happened to my? Oh, I'm missing a slide here. Oh, I'll have to talk to the profiling and gamut mapping. So, you know, I already spoke a little bit earlier about profiling and gamut mapping, but what I wanted to show, I don't know what happened to my slide, but you know, GMG's MX technology is a bit different than ICC, and the big benefit is the quality of the separation, our iterative process to get as close a match as we can to that common color space or that target color space. So we iterate. We print out a chart, we measure it, and then we update the profile, we print it out again, we measure it, and we get down to as low as we possibly can get to make sure we're getting the best possible color we can. So that's our iterative process. And our MX technology is a pure device link technology, which basically means we're converting from CMYK straight to CMYK. So there's no conversion to 3 color in between, which is typical for ICC. And when you do that conversion to a 3-channel, from a 3-channel to 4-channel, a lot of information gets lost and has to be reinterpreted. So the separations that you get are much smoother and of a much higher quality by using the MX technology versus ICC. You know, I apologize for not having the slide that visualizes it, but you'll just have to trust me. It's fantastic. So we'll take a quick look. I'll go through a quick demo. I think, how are we doing on time here? Do a quick time check. Perfect. So we'll take a look at the software and how we'd handle a typical job. This job came into the queue, and a lot of times the job can just go straight out to the device. We'll show that button first for calibrate. Basically, if I wanted to calibrate my LEC, I highlight the printer and click the calibrate button, and that prompts me up with a window that'll allow me to just hit the next button and print out a chart. So if we're going to work on this job was set up to go to the VersaCam series with metallic and white. So it's a nice job that's got all kinds of different things in it. It's got silver and white and so forth. We'll talk about layers real quick, how we handle layers. What's really nice in the workflow side of things to make it more efficient is that I can actually set up one job, and in this one job I'm going to print white, and then it's going to print the silver layer, and then it's going to back it up and print the CMYK layer. This job also has a cut in it as well, so it's going to back it up and do the cutting. So all in one job, I can set up 3 layers. I don't have to mess around with multiple jobs and trying to keep them organized in the right order and so forth. And what really helps with that is that if I have a number of copies, if I have to do a number of copies, first of all, I could duplicate that image, but maybe I wanted to do 5 copies. That's all I'd have to do is type in my 5 copies down below, and then I'm going to get 5 copies with basically 4 layers: white, metallic, color, and then the cut, without having to manage multiple files. So it's kind of a nice feature. Not a lot of machines out there or RIPs have that feature. Let's take a look at how we handle the white layer. This particular job does not have a white channel in it. So I have this kind of cool option in here that's called Add Coding Channel. And if I take a look at the transparent background, I just turn on that button there, I can see what's transparent in this job. I can add a coding channel, and in my coding channel, I want to define it as white. So once I define it as white, I could do a full frame, which shows me, visualizes it here, where the white's going to be printed. It's going to be printed 100% underneath. I could change that to 75 for whatever reason if I felt like doing that, if I needed to. But another cool feature is the only non-transparent areas. So now my white is going to print 100% only where there's anything printed, underneath everything printed. So underneath this black line, I'm going to see white. Underneath this image here, I'm going to have white printed. So that's kind of nice. Let's just change it for visual effect to full frame. Now this customer also has a special green. Their big problem color is this green. That's their corporate color. And they always spec it out as 3425, but I know that it needs to be a little bit different. Their 3425, their corporate color is a little bit different. So in my Spot library, I've created a library of my custom colors. And if we take a look here, you can see that the software comes with all the Pantone libraries, basically already pre-built in. I've deselected a few so it doesn't show all of them, but it comes with the metallics, the coated, the pastels, go-coated. Software comes with all of those pre-built in. So I've got my custom colors here, and if I need to map that to a different color, it's as easy as just typing in the rough name of the color, and here's my important customer's green that needs to match specific. And how I created that was in my Spot Color database. I measured the customer's patch, and then the software automatically calculated the best CMYK equivalent for that green to match. Okay, and this green, this is using the full color space of the device, the full gamut of the device, in order to achieve that customer's green. So I don't have to worry about that. So I'll remap that to my important customer's color. My metallics, not much to do here. The customer's spec'd out metallics basically out of the metallic swatch book, Pantone metallic swatch book. And they've spec'd them out, and pre-calculated within the software is the entire metallic coated library, and those colors are automatically assigned or automatically picked up. And if we take a look over here to that metallic color, we'll see that it requires, roughly 12 cyan, 13 magenta, 16 yellow, and we've got 25% silver. So the best match to that metallic color has already been defined, and it's automatically mapped to the correct spot color. If I did have a white channel in here, going back to white a little bit, I could just actually map that. I could go into Define Spot Color, choose Spot Color, and we'll go to my custom colors. And my custom colors also have some white here. I have a standard white that's just 100%, and also some of my customers demand a little bit different white. I have a bluish white, a reddish white, and a yellowish white. Maybe I'm trying to match different substrates or different whites that are printed on a flexo press, for example. So I could just as easily map that channel to a white. I don't have to have any special name on my spot color. I can easily remap that right within the interface. And if I'm going to cut this job, I have a cut channel here. So I am going to just go in and check my cut settings. We'll go to Define Cutting, and I can use the default settings from the printer. Basically that means I'm going to, whatever's on the front panel for my cutter, I'm going to choose that. Or I could do a custom setting and manually, per job, on a per job basis, define my cut settings for that printer. So we've tried to make the workflow as easy as possible. If the workflow is not easy, again, then it's not going to be used. So now when I'm ready to print this job, before I hit that OK button, I know that the machine's calibrated. It's going to be predictable, or it's going to be repeatable. I know what profile I'm choosing that I've created. I know it's going to be reliable, or predictable, I'm sorry. And then it was a piece of cake to set up this job, so we'll hit OK, and that job goes off to the races to start to print to the device. And it's going to print the white, then the silver, then the color, and then it's going to cut the job. And it's going to give me 5 copies. So just to review, we talked spot libraries, we talked about metallics, layered printing, auto white generation, and of course, overall the workflow of what GMG's doing. So GMG is offering proven calibration process to make sure you're consistent, repeatable, iterative profiling process to make sure it's as accurate as it can be. We have a unique gamut mapping to allow a common appearance. The gamut mapping basically keeps all the colors that can hit your target color space. They keep them exactly as you want them to be. It's only on the outer edges of the gamut where the printer is out of gamut that we do any compression. So it's a pretty unique gamut mapping strategy that GMG offers, and that's really the secret that allows us to go beyond just driving digital devices. It also allows us to give a common appearance across all print technologies with that gamut mapping profiling technology. Our special spot colors are all pre-calculated, and all the Pantone libraries are already included within the software. They're based off of the calibration, and they're using the entire gamut of the device. So they're not dumbed down, so to speak, to the target color space. If my target color space was Grackle, my customer's important green color is not going to be stuck inside the Grackle color space. It's going to use that extra color that I can get out of the machine to hit it as close as possible. As I mentioned, all the Pantone spot libraries included, as well as the metallics, and they mix. The metallics are included and already pre-calculated with just the right amount of silver and process color to give you the best results you can get for Pantone metallic colors. Multiple layers, which is a huge time saver when you're dealing with white, silver passes, including a cut pass. You can print up multiple copies, no problem, much easier for file management. So kind of basically we're nearing the end here, a couple slides left. And to summarize what we've discussed and to sort of pull it all back together, we talked about printer calibration and profiling and what the importance of that is. So basically we're assuring repeatability and predictability, which gains you the benefit of customer retention as well as less time and material waste. So we got our last poll up here. Just curious if you guys have had customers, how many of you out there that have had customers that have refused a job, actually sent it back because the color was not correct? It would be a very interesting response with this question, I think. If your customer is, customers don't want to send jobs back. So if they're sending jobs back, I'm a print buyer. We don't have a printing facility at our office in Boston. I buy print, and when I have to send a job back because of color, I start to think about looking at other suppliers. So sending a job back because of color is a huge reason to lose customers. So again, about 70% people voting. We've had 63%, so more than half of the audience getting jobs sent back because of color. And that's something that we want to really try to improve in order to keep that customer retention. And also less time and material waste, not just when a job comes back, but if I'm printing out jobs, trying to get the color right, I'm losing time and material. Especially if a customer sends a job back, that whole job goes in the waste bucket. So we talked about how to identify and achieve color targets. There's a little analysis of your facility that needs to be done. Is Grackle the right solution? Maybe it's Adobe RGB. Maybe you need to match other technologies in your facility. And how do we match colors between different devices? So first thing we need to do is we need to choose that target color space. We need to calibrate. So we need to calibrate our machines to make sure they're consistent. Otherwise, the devices aren't going to match each other if we're not calibrating them. We need a smart profile calculation method, a smart profile calculation method that's going to do a good gamut mapping strategy to make that job that was printed on Flexo look the same on the Roland LEC, same visual appearance. So we need a good profile calculation method to have a good gamut mapping strategy to keep as many colors matching as possible. And of course the spots need to be as close as the printing device allows. Most customers don't want you to reduce the gamut of spot colors to give a common appearance. We want to keep those spot colors as close as possible to the customer's demands. That's about it. For those of you that showed up, just one last plug, another shameless plug. For those of you that came in a little late, we're having a color management seminar. We have some spots left in New York City. If you happen to be in the New York area, please do register and stop by. We would love to see you. Both Kelly, Birgit, as well as myself will be there, along with a few special guests from our corporate headquarters in Germany. So thank you very much for your attention, and we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to join us.
Thank you also from my side, and every question which wasn't answered so far during the chat or during the presentation, I'm going to follow up on, or we're going to follow up on the questions which are here in the questions window. And if anybody has any further questions, please feel free to contact us, or if you don't have our contact information, contact Roland, and they will redirect the questions to us, and we can go from there.
All right. Well, this is Julie again. And so thank you again for attending our webinar today. And if you are a Roland owner and interested in attending any future webinars, please log on to the Roland DGA website /webinars, and you can see our entire schedule there. Thanks again.